When walking into the Omaha Metro Transit offices downtown, the large mural on the wall shows the history of public transit systems in Omaha, dating all the way back to the later half of the 1800s when there were horse-drawn streetcars. The mural shows the evolvement of the public transit system in Omaha, and the organization continues to evolve today. Daniel Lossie is on the board of directors at the Omaha Metro Transit. He explains what duties come with this title.
As a board member, there's really three key things that I should be focused on. One is policies and procedures and making sure that they have the support they need and the right policies and procedures in place to make sure the organization runs well and supports the staff and the team. One is to hold the executive director accountable and be some advising for him. I mean, he's smart and his team is smart, so the board really makes sure that he's doing his job. And then the third piece that a board member should do is work with the vision, ensuring that Metro Transit has a solid vision that lines up with where it needs to be going with meeting the community needs. And then that's kind of that accountability piece. Is the team at Metro Transit moving towards that vision?
Ridership is one of the most essential elements of a successful public transit system. Lossie explains the different types of bus riders.
So there's two audiences in general. There's those who don't have a car and the only way they can get around is with public transportation. And then there's the choice riders, people who have a car or could afford a car but choose not to and are choosing to ride the bus. I think it's important that we meet both audiences' needs.
Sure.
But it's definitely important that, I mean, one of the reasons public transit exists is to connect the community. And there are people in the community, whether it's young people who can't drive yet, old people who can't drive anymore, people who can't afford a car because of income inequality, that need the bus. And so it's really important that we're serving those areas.
In order to adequately serve riders, bus fares must remain at low levels to be accessible to all income levels.
Well, the fare is not going to change just on a minor fluctuation.
Right.
There's a huge process that we go through when we change fares. We're doing research to other communities. We're looking at what the riders can pay, what's affordable, what's not affordable. We get our revenue from multiple sources. We get property tax dollars, we get state aid, we get federal aid, and we get fare revenue, and we get a little bit of revenue from selling ads on the side of the buses. So fares are one piece of that pie. We have to keep that in mind as our costs increase. I mean, as the price of gas increases, that's one of our big expenses because we're using a lot of fuel.
Right.
When a fare increase happens, there's a lot of research done on the front end. It goes through a Title VI review to make sure that we're not having any disproportionate impact on low income or ethnic diversity.
In their article, Cost of a Ride, Eric Guerrera and Robert Cervero investigate the question, are the numbers of ridership on public transit an equal return for the money invested into constructing and maintaining it? While the article concludes that cars will continue to be the predominant mode of transportation in expanding cities, they also found that people were more willing to use public transit if their destination was closer to the path of the bus, light rail, or train. Like these findings, Lossie said that O-Metro tries to concentrate their resources in the parts of Omaha that have a higher population density and ridership.
Right now, the focus is more on putting our resources where it works best, which is not west of 90th Street. And a good example of this is the land development, how the city develops, how developers put subdivisions together. When you have a subdivision that basically has one entry point every half mile, how many people are going to walk to that spot and wait for the bus? And a lot of times, think of Maple, West Maple, and even West Center. Is there a sidewalk there? So in some places there is, in some places there's not. Is the bus going to pick up people standing in the drainage ditch waiting for it, right? The infrastructure's not there. If when Omaha developed out west, they actually built complete streets, then it would make sense. And if the neighborhoods had the density level to support bus, so there's population density is one thing because essentially that's your customer base. If you have 5,000 people per square mile, that's going to work a lot better. You know, even 10% of those people maybe ride the bus. If you have 1,000 people per square mile, even if you have 10% riding the bus, it's a huge difference in people getting on the bus and paying fares to help make it worthwhile to go there. During the day, Lossie works with the sustainability firm Verdis Group, so he has a very specialized knowledge that is relevant to transit planning.
While he doesn't work for O Metro full-time, he is still very present in their transit planning projects. He explains some of the essential questions of transit planning.
Yeah, I don't have a specific role in the design of the bus system, but we did just go through a regional transit vision, which looked at our system as a whole and picked out places where it's working well and where it's maybe not working quite as well. When you look at transit systems in general, there's trade-offs. Choices have to be made all the time when you have limited resources. So one perspective on transit planning is cover as much land area as you can. But when you do that, your frequency goes down. So you might be able to cover all the way out to really far west in Omaha, but the bus comes every hour. Or you focus your resources in a smaller area and you can have a bus coming every 10 minutes. So Omaha, historically, in the last couple decades, has been focused more on geographic coverage. And this regional transit vision proposed that we actually reduce our coverage a little bit and focus our resources a little bit more on frequency so that we can improve bus service in the places where there's high ridership. Another thing that we look at with transit planning is equality. We want to make sure that we are serving all income levels. And in fact, there's a process that I just became familiar with this year called Title VI review. So anytime Metro Transit is going to make a change to the system of a certain amount, and I don't remember the percentages off the top of my head, like if you're going to eliminate or add a route, you have to go through a Title VI review. If you're going to change a route by, I think it's 25%, an individual route, maybe it's less than that. Or if you're going to change routes across the entire system by a percentage threshold, that triggers a Title VI review.
Section 601 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 states, "No person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded of participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination." And Title VI was passed to ensure that tax dollars are never being spent in any way that would re-entrench racism or discrimination. While the Omaha Metro takes measures to make sure that Title VI is being upheld, there have been court cases, such as the Bus Riders Union case, Darrensburg v. Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and Save Our Valley v. Sound Transit, which have all involved lawsuits against public transit companies for not upholding Title VI. Dr. Nikita Imani, UNO Black Studies Department head, recalls a time when he was in a community that essentially made the public transit system inaccessible to those who need it the most.
In Chicago, I did a spring break project with a group of students at Dearborn Homes, which is a major housing project in Chicago. We're in Chicago, and I knew Chicago had a very elaborate transit system. I had never been there, but I was like, they got a transit system. And I noticed that none of the lower-income people were on the transit system. We were walking in the middle of freezing cold in Chicago. I'm like, how come? They're like, well, there's no station for miles. And that drew my attention. I looked up, and there were all these overhead subway tracks, but none of them stopped in the low-income community. So essentially, the people that might perhaps be most benefited by, you would have to go, a good 10, 12 blocks to get to a transit station. So,
in 1994, the bus riders of Los Angeles were threatened with $90 billion of taxpayer money being cut from public transit spending and instead going to rail projects that were only accessible to the wealthy, rather than improving public transit that 500,000 low-income workers relied on to get to work every day. This tension has remained for 20 years, and in 2012 the Bus Riders Union launched the Fight for the Soul of Los Angeles campaign, and they hope to gain enough attention to raise federal intervention in the situation. Dr. Imani thinks it is crucial for those who use the bus the most to have some influence in transit planning.
You've got to say we're going to have a plan to develop Omaha. One of the things that I've seen is I don't think that's what we have right now. I think what we have right now is kind of a North Omaha plan and a South Omaha plan, whatever. So if you do that, remember what I said earlier, the way you plan it is the way it's going to. So if I plan in a segregated way, I'm going to generate segregated results. If I plan in an integrative way, then I generate, for example, are we saying, okay, here's the economic profile of all of Omaha writ large. Here are the kinds of jobs we need for the future. Is that what we say, or do we say, what does North Omaha need? What does South Omaha? And my experience has been there's been a lot of that kind of discussion. My argument is, while the intentions of that sometimes are very good, it leads to separate development plans
Right.
for different parts of the city. And the problem is, unless the development plan is connected in some way, you essentially end up with 3 or 4 little cities.
Dr. Imani believes that transit planning is just one component of development planning, which needs to be reformed to connect all parts of the city.
When people first said to me North Omaha, South Omaha, West Omaha, I thought they were just telling me geography. There's a north, and but I learned as I stayed here, they meant more than that. They really did mean that there's a North Omaha, which was almost a separate entity, and there's a South Omaha, which is almost a separate, and a West Omaha, and there are different development models, different. I think that culture has to be changed by city officials, business leaders, others who play major roles in defining how the city is going to work. And I think they have to create an ethos that says, okay, we're going to have an Omaha development plan. Probably got to say we're going to have a plan to develop Omaha. One of the things that I've seen is I don't think that's what we have right now. I think what we have right now is kind of a North Omaha plan and a South Omaha plan, whatever. So if you do that, remember what I said earlier. The way you plan it is the way it's gonna. So if I plan in a segregated way, I'm going to generate segregated results. If I plan in an integrative way, then I generate. For example, are we saying, okay, here's the economic profile of all of Omaha writ large. Here are the kinds of jobs we need for the future. Is that what we say, or do we say, what does North Omaha need? What does South Omaha? And my experience has been there's been a lot of that kind of discussion. My argument is, while the intentions of that sometimes are very good, it leads to separate development plans for different parts of the city. And the problem is, unless the development plan is connected in some way, you essentially end up with 3 or 4 little cities.
The Central Omaha Transit Alternatives Analysis Project began 2 years ago with the goal to improve mobility and efficiency of public transit systems in Central Omaha. The 2 proposed solutions that have made it to the project's final consideration are bus rapid transit and modern streetcar. Lossie explains the 2 types of transit alternatives.
They were looking at what are transit alternatives primarily from downtown to midtown and as far west as UNMC, the Med Center at 42nd and Farnham, and they were at one point looking as far west as 72nd and Dodge. And what they came down to was 2 basic alternatives. They looked at different routes, running on Dodge Street or Farnham Street or Harney Street. How does it turn around when it gets downtown? Does it just end as a straight line, or does it come up and loop around and try to hit this north downtown area where the ball stadium is, and the CenturyLink Center? And they were looking at different technologies. They were looking at bus rapid transit, BRT, and they were looking at streetcar. Streetcar obviously has rails in the ground. It's more permanent from the standpoint of if you're going to put rails in the ground, you're not going to be moving the streetcar easily. BRT is a lot cheaper both to get started and to run. It costs a lot less to run as well. And that people feel like it's less permanent, but it really can be just as permanent. Just because there's not rails in the ground doesn't mean that the bus service is going to change at the tip of a hat. BRT is taking a bus. A lot of times it's an articulated bus, so it's double long. It has the little accordion in the middle, and having fast boarding areas. So almost in an ideal world, and there's lots of variations of BRT, you would pay for your ticket and like go through a kiosk, a little turnstile, and then once you're over there, the bus stops, people get in, people get off, almost like a subway.
On December 3rd, 2013, a meeting was held to educate the public and receive feedback on their preferred transit solution. The meeting featured many displays on both the BRT and modern streetcar, and showed the potential routes that they would be on in Central Omaha. They also showcased many signs that illustrated how they would not only improve mobility efficiency, but also the economic profit that they would have by creating new jobs and revenue. Lossie thinks that having access to better, more efficient public transit systems is a way to improve quality of life.
In Omaha, we're a growing city, we're getting bigger, and people are understanding that quality of life can be improved if you don't have to own a car. Cars are expensive. To own, maintain, fill up with gas, get oil changes when things break, it's hundreds of dollars usually. A bus ticket is a fixed cost. I know what it's going to cost me, 55 bucks every month for unlimited rides. It's like filling up the gas tank once for $55, and I can ride anywhere in the city that the bus goes the rest of the month, unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, riding the bus is freedom, it's independence, it's restful. I don't have to fight traffic. I can read a book, I can text, I can check my email, I can take a nap, which sometimes is nice
Yeah.
after a long day at the office or if it was tough getting out of the house. So for me, riding the bus equals freedom and independence.
Westside senior Renee Stewart has been riding the bus her entire life and takes it almost everywhere she goes. Stewart used to live in North Omaha, and she thinks moving further west gave her a different perspective on the public transit system.
I started all my life because of the fact that I lived in North Omaha, and down there predominantly like everybody catches the bus, and it's like more like I guess personal to get places and stuff, and it's more popular to see it, especially downtown. Then I moved out here, and I still do because I only live down the street, so it's cheap.
Stewart explains why she enjoys riding the bus.
It clears your mind because of the fact that you see all these different people, and you're coming in close contact with them. Everybody is going to the same place. If not the same place, you get to see them go different routes. Like you get to see them switch buses, and you get to see people walking in the streets. I feel like it's like, and you get to see like the trees and the buildings, and I don't know, just life. You get to see it from a different view.
Stewart has also experienced some stigmas because of riding the bus, but from other people that have never ridden it before. But she said these don't faze her because she understands that she is different from them and has a different perspective.
Most of the people be like, you ride the bus? I'm just like, yeah, I only live down the street. There's like the city bus? I'm just like, yeah. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really care. At first I was just like, it's a little sketchy, you know? But I'm just like, you know what? I don't care. Either people will accept you for like, it doesn't matter how you're getting there, because at the end of the day, I'm in two different positions than these people. You know, they have the privilege to have their parents, drive them to school. I don't have that. So I understand how we're different, and I accept, how I will get there and where I need to be, and I don't.
I recently visited the Metro offices on 22nd and Cummings Street to get a tour of their 370,000 square foot facilities that includes a fueling and washing station, bus garage, and maintenance center. Marketing Director Linda Barrett showed me around the facilities and pointed out some interesting things about the busing system. For those of you who are not familiar with how to ride the bus, here is a short tutorial segment on how to plan a trip. First, you should either visit ometro.com or Google Maps, as both have good applications to plan a bus route. Enter in your starting place. Mine is going to be Swanson Library. Then enter in your destination. Mine is going to be Midtown Crossing. Once the trip is routed, you will see the next time the bus arrives at the beginning spot. Make sure to arrive at least 5 minutes early so you can have enough time in case the bus is running ahead of schedule. Before you get on your bus at the stop, make sure it is the correct bus. I am taking the number 2 bus for this trip, and it says it on the signs on the front, side, and back of the bus. Standard bus fare is $1.25 per ride, and a ticket to transfer to another bus costs 25 cents, but I won't need to transfer for this ride. Place your money into the fare box when you get on the bus, and if you have a bus pass, you can place it into the slot on the fare box. Then find a seat to be in for your duration of the ride. When you are about 2 blocks from your destination, pull the yellow cord on the bus to request a stop, and prepare to get up when you get close so you can get off. If you need accommodations while getting on or off the bus, there is a ramp that the bus operator can use to help you get on if you ask. The Omaha buses are very accessible, and they each have 2 spots for wheelchairs on them. If you ever get lost while riding the bus or you miss the scheduled bus, call 402-341-0800 to contact an operator that will assist you on how to get to your destination. For those who have never ridden the bus before, the best advice would be to just try it. Lossie mentioned that there is a learning curve for partaking in any new skill, and riding the bus is something that does take practice, but once you do it a few times, it becomes much easier to follow and a very pleasant experience.